Welcome, everyone. This is Ute Lambrecht from the Mastermind Hub. Today, I have a topic that is a bit strange because I am very structured. And the topic today is how do creative people bring structure into their life? So, to discuss this topic, and I'll go into why I find this quite an interesting topic for me, I would like to introduce my guests today. So, Yoshi.
I'm Yoshi Arima from Art of Yoshi, and I express light and love to the world. Yes, that's what I do.
Super. Christina.
I am Christina Szegedi from Switzerland, of ChristinaSegedi.com. And I'm an artist and dancer and coach, and I love to create different ways of structures.
Fleur.
Hello, I'm Fleur van Til from joylovegrace.com, and I currently live in Ecuador, exotic warm Ecuador, and I love to help others resolve the blocks that are in the way of being their most amazing self.
Super. So as you can see, we are all very creative, or at least I'm surrounded by a lot of creative people. And what really was interesting for me was, as I'm quite structured, I know that the structures I've created are by default. We live in such a structured world that I just sort of take on things and it's not so painful for me. So I just take them on, and I don't always know that actually there are better ways of doing things. So I would love to delve into this topic because I would like to have new insights on how could I change the structures in my life. So let's start about what about structures really was hard for you. I'll just go around and maybe I'll start with Fleur this time. So Fleur,
Sure. Yeah.
where in your life did you find structure really a block?
Well, it was in various areas of my life. I was living in the Netherlands, and everything is so structured there, and I felt myself such a free spirit that it was hard for me to really thrive in that kind of organization and structure.
Mm-hmm.
So since I was very small, I had this longing to be just free and to step away from most of the structures. And I experienced it as well with my children that were in school, and I saw them kind of being hemmed in this structure, and we had to take them out of school even. And we took the big leap to really move to another country where we could really live this kind of a structure in a way that we could create our own structure.
Super. So I'll get there to the how you resolved it soon. I just would like to sort of get into the, what's so uncomfortable about structure. But super. Thanks very much.
Yeah.
Christina.
For me, there were different points where I felt structure was painful. One was always to be employed, like to have a set structure and work for someone, and kind of the energy that I put out is not in a direct flow that with energy that comes back. So that was always a challenge for me. I always wanted to be my own leader. And then for me, when I was teaching dance, and especially ballet, which has a very fixed structure within each class, I felt that after 10 years of teaching that, my creative self was kind of suffering because I had to put all the ideas in a set structure. And so that was definitely another painful moment where I felt like I had to break out of structures. And for me also time is structure. When I have to fix or work for a fixed schedule over a long time, and I don't have a specific or I don't have the freedom to just flow with my creativity. Yeah, so that are three areas where I felt very painful to be in a structure.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Christina. Yoshi.
I think if I look at my career life, I worked at places in visual effects where there was completely no structure. It was basically, we need this yesterday. So you just put all hands on deck and you just work till all night or 3 in the morning or whatever, constantly. And then I moved from that eventually into TV production and video games where there was so much structure that when I went into a meeting and they just said, by this point, you would have to have this done. And then it felt really rigid. And then when I was at home, the structure that I wanted to put into my life, I started out as a collector of Star Wars toys and stuff. So it started to amount on a lot of these boxes and things that I was collecting. And I let structure get out of the way sometimes because I would just pile them up, and I craved structure out of that. So, but all I would just see was just stuff. So I've been going between the career where it had structure and didn't have structure, and then craving structure in my home life, just based on, actually the whole collecting started because my aunt gave me a diary when I was probably 7, and it just said, write in what happened on that day and maybe take a pamphlet from that restaurant to remember what it was. And that set me on like a collection.
That's amazing. So super, thanks, Yoshi. So, I mean, what you just said was so amazing because, I mean, being employed is, I think, the most hemmed in experience that I've also, experienced in my life. So how did you make changes? And maybe I'll go back around a different way. So Yoshi, how did you make those changes? So how did you resolve this hemmed in feeling or in your life? And I do get that, it's a process. It's not like we've resolved it and it's all hunky-dory. But ideas that you're bringing into your life to help you live in a still structure, but in a structure that works for you.
Yeah, I think it took 25 years to figure out, and I'm still figuring it out today. But if I look at the work, so say in the environment of being in a structured work environment where I felt hemmed in and I wanted to have just flow in that, I had to find balance with myself in that structure. So I said, is there a way that I can allow flow to happen even though I'm within the bounds of this structure? And the way that actually it happened was I started writing poetry at work, which allowed me to flow at work and just say, you know what, I'm all right with creating this poetry while I'm in this structure because I'm able to express myself. I didn't know that's what I was doing. I just felt that call. So that allowed me to have that structure. And then, the flow within that structure. And then with my home environment, when I looked at the stuff and I was getting overwhelmed by the things that I had collected, I would go to the extreme of that structure. And it's like, oh, I've got to database everything. I've got to put it all in there. So I've got it all categorized, everything. Yeah, that is stuff from here. This is green people. This is blah, blah, blah. It's so structured. But I had to find a balance between it all because I was finding then I was too lost in my own structure. And I had to find my flow again to just let it happen. So I went through every single program. I think the Getting Things Done was the biggest one that gave me a bit of a path of how to structure. It's like, what do you do with this item, etc. But it got it's like, you know what, this is too over-structured. So what I found in the end was I just needed something that allowed me to, where do I find my joy? And can I find my joy? And it's funny, the book that I just found recently of Marie Kondo's The Magic of Tidying Up has transformed my life because her whole thing about bringing structure into your life through tidiness is about, does this object bring me joy? If not, recycle it. Does this object bring me joy? Right? And you go through that process. And when that joy came in, everything around my life is now starting to reflect back joy. And that, like, 25-year search is like, oh, it's all about joy. But they could tell you that when 20 years ago and you just say joy, yeah, I don't get it.
I know. Thank you. Super. Really great insights there. Christina.
For me, it was when I was in a fixed structure, I always intuitively connected with my creativity or intuition. I remember, you know, even in school, I was doodling the whole time, and I kind of, in that structure, I still found my own voice, and I did listen to the teacher, but somehow instead of taking notes, I was just doodling. And then kind of the structure that I follow through my whole life. And first I just did it for myself, but then I realized it's actually my structure, is that I really I kind of balance the body, the mind, and the soul all the time, so that I really first ask within, like, what is it? What is my next step? And then I create a mindset for that next step, and always connecting with the body, so that I'm just really anchoring in the body all the ideas that I have. But it's like really always, my structure is really my intuition in the end that guides me to the next place. And so, yeah, just connecting with my intuition, connecting with my body, and then kind of the mind is adapting to that as well. And this balance is the structure that kind of floats in it's a free flowing structure in a way. So, but I can, I do it everywhere.
Yeah. No, that sounds really interesting. Fleur, how do you bring, and you started out, so maybe you want to start where you left off last time in the beginning with your kids.
Yes. No, well, I think what for me was really important to really relearn how to live a different way. Like, I think in our society we're so much trained to follow everything and to push through and to make it happen. And for me to really come back to the basics of what Yoshi said, finding joy in the things you do, and take that as a measurement for the things. If it's a yes or a no, tune into yourself and find joy. Are you still with me?
Yes, we're hearing you.
What did I want to say? Yeah, so it was much more creating structure in a way that allows me to flow, to listen to my heart, to take my heart as a leader in everything that I do. And for me, I start the week with setting an intention of what I want to create that week and how I want to, just be, basically. And that's also how I start my day every day. So rather than checking off my to-do list, it's much more for me about how I want to be, and of course also what I want to do, but the basic is how I want to be. Because if I do things with have to, or force, or kind of, this kind of energy, then it's never going to be great what I create. So joy and fun and love, being kind to myself, that is really, really, really important to me in my structure.
Super.
So creating a sanctuary where you can thrive.
Nice. Wonderful. What I'm hearing from all of you is that structure is actually something that's happening in the moment. It's happening. It's like you listen inside, and within that message that comes from within and that's the structure that's holding you in the moment until you again come against a question or whatever you need in your life, and then you listen again and you create that new structure. It's like, does that make sense? I'm just listening to what you're saying, and it just makes total sense to me now, because we always use the structure of history, which was made for a different time, not for today.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Wow,
Yes.
that's really, thank you very much. So, I would like to open this up if there's anything you would like to add, and you know, any, or also maybe examples of how you bring structures. How do you plan your work, for instance, when you you know, start a new piece of work, or how do you school your children? You know, if you're homeschooling, how do you bring structure to that? Because there must be some structure you're bringing to that as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, who would like to start with that?
I would like to say that what you said at the end is so important, that we live in a time now where the old structures are falling apart, and where the old paradigms and the old values, or even the old labels, don't work anymore. And I think that's, for most creative people, that's the real pain, that they, and I include myself, that they try to put themselves into a form or something that already existed, and they want to label themselves, and it just doesn't, it never feels fulfilling, and it never feels full inside. And I think it's really, I want to encourage everyone to keep searching, or kind of keep combining until you find your own signature, your own voice, your own really what structure, yes, that like really feels, that's me, and it doesn't exist yet, but it doesn't matter, because we're all unique, and that is our purpose, to find this creative expression and live it. That's the purpose why we're here, to live that mission. And I think that's really something we need to spread and make sure that we don't try to kind of look outside for the answers too much.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I was just gonna add to that. That's exactly where I'm at right now, because this year, maybe in the last couple of months, is the first time I started questioning, you know, the monthly calendar. It just doesn't work for me. I've never questioned that before, because I just said, this is a given. This is the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And what I've been doing in the last month is actually coming up with all this brainstorming ideas of what is a visual structure that works for me on a visual system that I can relate to, and I can actually feel that enjoyment and that empowerment of like, wow, this is the way I do my structure. Like, and the one thing that I was thinking back, when they used to do, you're talking about how do you structure when you have work to do. There has to be some structure in there. So originally I would do like the to-do list, and I just have the little things that I got to do this, and I would fill that in. I was just thinking, then you just get these check marks going off, and it's like, and you're kind of like, well, it kind of feels like completion. But you remember when you were in elementary school and they said, we're going to have a fundraiser this Friday, and they would put up this big picture of a thermometer, and you would just see this thermometer just going up as the donations came in, and you would walk by that thermometer every day, and you're like, wow, look at how much money we've raised. And there would be, it's like the temperature is going up. Like it's getting exciting. And I've moved back to a visual response system like that in my tasks, so that I at least feel I'm building something, rather than just like the to-do list. Everything is just on the same level. It's kind of like check.
Yeah.
But when you see that thermometer going up, it's like, oh, I'm almost done, or whatever. So I like those structures, but yeah, getting rid of the old systems. Like you said, we're in a time now where a lot of these systems don't work anymore, and to be okay with saying, well, is it okay for me to think that way? And we're all realizing, absolutely, because in the end, do you feel joyful when you're looking at that structure that was there or not? And that's my temperature gauge.
That's really, that's great. Thanks, Yoshi.
I think, you know, we're really moving into inspired times, and I think, you know, you cannot plan an inspired life.
No.
You create a container for it, yes, because that's when you're able to expand and feel safe and feel focused. But to be able to really get free flow of inspiration and beauty and the brilliance that we all have inside of us is really what's most important in this time, I think. And most important to me is trusting what you feel is leading you towards your next step.
Yeah.
So to trust really what's inside of you is much more brilliant than what you can think up with your mind. Like you might think, you know, the next step is to finish that program or whatever. But the real next step is to take some time off, to care for yourself and to do something that lifts your spirit. And that way you'll be much more productive in the end. Because I think we all are trained to, like, when we push and when we are stressed, we're more effective. But I think the opposite is true. You know, we're much more tapped into life when we are when we're not stressed and when we're joyful.
You know, that's really interesting, because I recently am testing something out for myself. My energy is about having bursts of energy where I do lots and lots of work, and then I just don't want to do anything. Like, I just want to, I don't want to know anything. And that's been really challenging for me, because we're supposed to work from morning to evening, 5 days a week, you know, to be done. And otherwise you're not doing a hobby and you're not actually doing your work. And it's been really challenging. It's I'm working at it. But it's interesting how you know, testing this out, and I've actually noticed that I get much more done. And when I have these spurts of energy, it flows, and it's like, wow, I got something done now. And that when I'm not in that, it's actually more difficult for me to, when I'm not in the spirit of the moment, to actually stay away from work, you know. I actually have to drag myself from the computer, because, you know, I tend to think, oh, no, I need to actually really do a little bit at least, you know. But it's amazing how, you know, if I listen to my energy, I actually do get the work done. So, anything maybe we would like to, I think, in closing, what would you like to share? Any tips or anything that you do that's might spark some new ideas for someone else? Fleur, shall we go with you?
Well, I think, like, what's really valuable for me, and it's a simple tip, but remember to take a walk. You know, this opens the free flow of energy, inspiration, and it actually, you know, you get ideas that you wouldn't be able to think of, and you get structures and planning. All of that comes when you move your body, when you take a walk, a step away from your work. And, you know, the other thing is be yourself, trust your uniqueness, and listen to your heart, because everything is inside of you, and the structure appears if you open up to what's inside of you and your unique genius. So that's what I can say.
Thank you, Fleur. Christina.
I have several things. So one is to really, what you said, Fleur, just really trust that whatever it is that makes you inspired, that keep going with that wave, because if you are clear what brings you joy and what you're inspired by, and if you are clear inside, then also the others will feel that, and you don't need a fancy website or copy. When you are clear inside, then that the energy will just, you know, flow. And on the other hand, if you're just so fixed with trying to create a structure, but you're not really clear what you really are, then it's not going to work. And the other thing that really works for me is to always find this balance between body, mind, and soul, and really look at my life as a ecosystem, and where everything needs attention, and this means for me to care about my physical body, my emotional body, my energetic body or spiritual body, and my mental body, and really always tune in with them and see how they are balanced. And the last thing is that time, divine time, that sometimes structures will not come for 25 years. and there is a divine timing for everything, and it's about continuing the journey and continuing what drives you, and to find your own structure. And I think it doesn't end just at one day and we know it all. I think it's, as long as we're here on this planet, in this body, we're gonna continue. And that's the beauty of it. And for everything there is a divine timing. And
super. Yeah. Thanks, Christina. Yoshi?
I heard a parable this morning. I can't remember the name of the title, but I'll just describe, because it really blew my mind. And it talked about this story where a bunch of gargoyles were against this boy, and this one boy, somebody would look at it and say, there's no way you could win over these gargoyles. And he was just going one by one after these gargoyles. And then he said, one of these gargoyles came, and the boy had a bottle of pickles, and he had just had a few pickles on the bottom. So the gargoyle came over and then stuck his hand in there to grab the pickles. And then the gargoyle got his hand stuck in there because he's like that. And then the boy says, do you want to know the secret of getting out of the cage? And the gargoyle says, yes, of course. And he said, let go your grip. And then when you release the grip of the pickles, then you slide out. And it just ricocheted through my life, because I was thinking, with all the structure that we had in our past life, yeah, maybe. When I was leaving the army, there's some our old work habits have that structure. So there's parts of us that want to keep that structure alive, because we were trained like a boot camp. Remember your structure, remember your milestones, remember all that, right? And what we're all talking about in a commonality here is that there's this spirit that we are, that is pure joy, that has all the answers. And aligning with that joy and those answers, every situation that comes up, even when we're asking for structure, it has the answer within that question aligned with it. And it's that whole thing of, well, every time, like everybody said, you get back in touch with yourself when you go for the walk, when you do meditation, when you get in touch with yourself, you release that grip of what your mind thinks you're supposed to do, and then you just flow. And then when you flow, it's just like, wow, life is amazing, right? And you're not worried about all that other stuff that your mind's trying to say, I have to do this, I have to do this. And I think that's the neat thing about, like you said, this shift that we're having in the time. We've worn that label for so long of what we thought we were supposed to do with the structures, and saying, that's my experience, I'm supposed to take that structure with me. But to all of a sudden say, what do you mean those 20 years didn't mean anything with that structure? They didn't mean anything about the structure, but they meant so much to who you became in that 20-year span, to finally say, oh, it's about joy. Okay. and the one thing that I just want to quickly say was, like, when you look at a baby, when you look at a child, they are pure spirit. They're just like, if they want a cookie, they're going to grab a cookie. And it's just like, go for it, right? They don't say, should I have this cookie? That's the very first time. Or the baby will just like, oh, I have to poo right now, so I'm going to poo. And it just happens. So that natural spirit of us to be who we are is something that we were somehow trained to, because of our mind, to say, let's forget about that. But that's why we're all on this path to remember who we are inside and just go with the joy and be like a baby. Yeah.
Have fun. Have fun.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you very much, all of you. I think, you know, you've really broadened my perspective on how to look at structure and how to actually be much more at ease with you know, how I am wired, you know. So I really appreciate you coming together. And for you who are listening, I hope you've had some valuable insights and new ideas as well. And also have had an experience of what a mastermind can be like. And I hope you continue on, if you are in a mastermind, with your journey. And if you're not, please go and start your own mastermind. It's an amazing experience. So thanks very much. And
Thank you.
bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.